fairly certain we can get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks, Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. I'm up against the wall. I'm in an air with a B and the B. Oh no. Oh, okay. Did the stream go away? Did it go? Yeah. It gave me a warning that it had quit, but the program's still on. This is perfect for this kind of thing. Anyways, welcome to the show, everybody. Let me know if I'm still there by giving a like to the show. That would be the probably the best way to do it. And if I can, I've just set this up. Let's see if the chat room window is there. Let's see if it takes a second for it to load. It should, I guess. Let's see. Go to here and this business, and I'll try to go to here. Why'd it get small all of a sudden? That's very strange. All right, I will have to do, what'll I do? I'll do properties and I'll change the size of it as something like something like that. Something like that. Um, Apparently the page is it's literally sideways. Should show you guys here, but it does not. I'm working on it. Um, how about I'll just add a new one. I don't care. We'll just build it from here. How you doing? YouTube's okay? Looking all right? I am currently, hold on, I'm gonna go back to this real quick. Uh, I'm in LA for a couple days, but we're at an Airbnb because I have the fam with me and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so hello, there we are. And I'm going to go to this business, see if I can remedy the issue with the frame. I guess not. Right. I don't care. Make a new one. It'll take me a second because this thing is crawling right now. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it still thinks it's not on. Maybe that's the issue. I'm bringing up the there we go. Mac. Let's see. It doesn't want to do anything today. That's very strange. Hmm. Well, that's funny. Okay, that's hilarious. Okay. The building. Okay. That'll do it. I think. A little weird, but it'll hold. Sure, why not? Um, I gotta stretch this out so I can see you guys, and then I'll be able to fix it. I'm doing this on a really tiny screen right now, and then in about a second, I'll be able to show you guys where you are and what you're doing. Boom, there we go. Bring this down, and we'll bring this over here. Hopefully, we'll see um, you guys. Hi, chat room. There you are. I feel like I should shrink you down, so I'll mess around with that on screen, so I'm not being not a complete mess. But I want to be able to show. There we go. That's a little better. I'm gonna have to, yeah, squeeze that out. Hi, look at you, lovely folks. And you're up on the screen, and now I'm up on the screen, and there we go. Hi there. There you go. All right, I fixed it. Yes, you are very tiny. I'm sorry. I wish I could do more about that, but I can't. First of all, thank everybody who came out to the Sexy Liberal show in Denver and the Nerd Halen show. Oh my God, that was too much fun. I had a blast at HQ. It was our first time playing in Denver, and I gotta say, my first time. This is true. Is it the first time? Yeah, it's my first time singing, doing any kind of a singing performance, in Denver at whatever 80% oxygen or whatever we have there, and boy, oh ancient. Sorry, somebody. Oop, who said that? I met some of your friends in Denver. I've seen photos. Excellent, ancient Pollyanna. I mean, just lovely folks. It was just super good. It was really fun. And thank you, Stephen. Same altitude as Albuquerque. Yes, and that was an issue, but I was there a day before and didn't have to work. And I had two shows, we had the Sexy Liberal show and the other one, but whatever. Anyways, I was okay. I managed, I will say. But Jeff Page, our drummer, like hats off to him because he was not feeling it. And the drummer is the hardest working guy in the band. There, I mean, it's practically running a marathon, right? So, hi Laura. So, anyways, I'm glad to be here with you guys. I'm gonna do my best to kind of put together the normal show here. The internet here is pretty rock solid, so fingers crossed it'll work. By tomorrow, I'll have a setup so that I can. Um, did Jesse Ventura show up? Yes, he did. I lost him somewhere in the Denver airport, but I yeah. I will as we go. I'll fix what this looks like because it's a little slapdash for me. But I will say, again, thank you guys, everybody who showed up, and it was just super fun. And I look forward to the next one. And everybody was awesome. Yeah, that's it, I guess, basically. And still no stars on Facebook. That's weird. Well, just share the show out on Facebook. That's the next best thing, I suppose. I did see the murals. I've seen them before, though. I've seen them a lot of times. And I'm gonna do, pardon the view. I'm gonna do one thing here because I know this is gonna be an issue with this laptop. Is I'm gonna put it up a little so that it does not cook. There we go. That's a little better. Hi. Sorry. Did I show too much skin, too much cleavage? I apologize. Anyways, spell check on iPad sucks. It does. Did I misspell something? Because it's on the wrong thing, or did you write something? I'm so teeny. That's right. I can make myself slightly bigger. Enoch Chuck. But I mean, the primary thing is that we get to look at, what's ridiculous in these videos. I'll move this over here a little bit. And I should bring it up. No, okay, this will be fine. It's a little abstract, but thank you guys for the likes and the gifted subs, Deanne. Thank you so much. Happening right there. Lovely. Um, And yeah, what can I do? All right, let's just try to do this. I think we'll be all right. I think this is a good framing for what we need to do because we're going to cover this. And thank you, Patreon folks. And I hopefully will see some of you live at the show on Wednesday. Tomorrow night, Ultimate Jam Night. We're celebrating Pride. I am doing a share song, among other songs, and hosting the night. It's going to be great, full of great guests. It's going to be, I'm excited. But on top of that, Wednesday night, Flapper show, and that will be another gift to our Patreon folks. I'm also going to see if I'm able to make it a members stream. It might have to be something I do after the fact, though, where I post it right after for members on YouTube. Like replay it. I'm gonna try that. Yeah. Yeah, so it does involve me straddling a cannon, that one. But I figure it's subtle, you know. Anyways, shall we jump in? Shall we get right to it? Okay, there's a couple of we got a bunch of stuff today. First of all, let's go with this doofus. I'm gonna have to reframe this. I'll take this guy. Give me 1 second, because of the nature of the framing on this. And I'll take this thing. I'll go boop, this thing. Um, and This is Carl Higby. Uh, I don't know what is going on with this title. I'm very excited about it, but it says Carl Higby exposes Biden's sneaky political play to get votes. Yeah, it's called an infrastructure bill. Anyways, we'll get to him in a minute. Of course, Glenn Beck. Apparently, the Biden DHS secret police want you to rat out your neighbors. Kind of like when Trump does his papers, please law that he's going to pass. That the independents and the libertarians have really been asking for. And then, of course, uh, Life, Liberty, and Levin is saying one of my favorite dumb sentences. Biden is giving China everything, absolutely everything it wants. Absolutely everything. Not just everything, but absolutely everything. Then, of course, there's Steve Ducey. We'll get to that in a second. But first, ladies and gentlemen, if I may, Maria Bartipopo has Eric Trump on. And the argument will be Trump will be debating both Biden and CNN on Thursday. Now, in relation to some of the Ronnie Jackson stuff that's been up, where he said the Biden debate prep is they're trying to get the dose right. Okay, everything's a projection. Every accusation is a confession. So of course that's exactly what Ronnie Jackson is doing with Trump. And I got to tell you, from looking at the rest of these the rallies he's been doing, it ain't working. Like none of the doses are working. Whatever they're trying to give Trump to like straighten him out, all of it's going like none of it works. None of it. Whatever they're dosing him with, It's he's either developed a tolerance for it or he's too far gone. But let's find out what Eric Trump says. Is he says like Trump's going to be fighting CNN and the mute button. Anyways, here we go. Yeah.
And we begin this Sunday morning with a look ahead to the upcoming presidential debate between President Biden and former President Trump, now just 4 days away. This Thursday, hosted by...
She is exhausted. I know the feeling. Look at the bags under her eyes. Look, can you see? Can I see the bags under her eyes? Yeah, I don't know what she was doing last night, but it was probably at Mar-a-Lago. And she's just it's when you get up in the morning and you have a morning show on Fox News and your whole job is turd polishing for Donald Trump. And he's like, I left some really loose stool for you. Good luck.
CNN in Atlanta. The rules for the CNN presidential debate include candidates will not be allowed to interact with staff during the 2 commercial breaks.
Right, which is, I don't know whether that's to like keep Trump from getting talking points or some, being coached in the corner, or to eliminate the impression that Biden is being coached. Either way, it doesn't matter. Neither one of them have an advantage, and they are the person that's in the room when these big decisions have to be made. And even if they're in a room full of people, in the decision room, in the Oval Office, something like that, ultimately the decision is yours and yours alone in a lot of these situations. So you don't want advice at the last second in these situations. You want to see what they would be like, how they're dealing with these things directly.
After a coin toss, Trump will be featured on the left podium.
I see, because he's a communist. How did Biden even let them toss a coin? Isn't that just too capitalist?
Biden on the right podium. Microphones will be muted outside of...
Microsoft will be muted?
Candidates allotted speaking time.
Yeah, which will be torture for Trump. You're just going to hear him tell you, absolutely. Like, if they had muted his mic during the Hillary Clinton stuff, like that whole you'd be in jail moment that basically sunk her with a bunch of like independents that thought, oh, I don't know if a woman can be president anyways. And here he is kind of dunking on her. What if a world leader does that? Blah, blah, blah. Well, if a world leader did that, like we would throw sanctions on them and stuff. But in a debate like that, she was more of a gentleman than he was in that regard. And so had that rule been in existence, that moment would be gone. And it's a huge factor because that's what he's going to be trying to do the entire time, is like little jabs, because he won't be able. And again, he might have at one point had the ability to improv in these situations like he did with Hillary, although they were waiting for that one. But now I don't believe it. I don't think he has the capacity the way Biden did say during the SOTU.
No props or pre-written notes will be allowed on stage, and
no props. He's not allowed to bring Trump can't bring the laptop from hell.
Trump will have the last word during the closing statement.
Like Biden will say something cogent, smart, and a good final statement that he's rehearsed and like a professional doing, who's actually a public servant, and Trump will just ramble till he runs out of time. We had the greatest economy and Hannibal Lecter. If I was in a boat with Hannibal Lecter and it was going down, and I was like, do I get eaten by the shark or do I let Hannibal Lecter bite me? Anthony Hopkins, attractive man, totally attractive, but I'm going for this. I don't know. I think I'd let the shark eat my fat parts and give my bones. I'd have to work it out. Some people think I'm crazy for talking like this, but I'm actually a genius if you really think about it. And don't, because your nose will start to bleed.
Meanwhile, the Biden campaign and the DNC revealed on Thursday that they hauled in $85 million in fundraising in the month of May, falling way short of the Trump campaign and the RNC haul, which pulled in $141 million.
One more time. Say that again.
Short of the Trump campaign and the RNC haul, which pulled in $141 million on Thursday, that they hauled in $85 million.
Wait, 1 second.
Outside of the candidates' allotted speaking time. No props or pre-written notes will be allowed on stage, and President Trump will have the last word during the closing statement. Meanwhile, the Biden campaign and the DNC revealed on Thursday that they hauled in $85 million in fundraising in the month of May, falling way short of the Trump campaign and the RNC haul.
You know, it's funny. Do you mind, chat room, if I bring you guys in on this for just 1 second? If you'll recall, um, Trump got, and the RNC, obviously the RNC got this, not Trump directly, because you know there's a limit on this. But the RNC got $100 million from a single donor, one person. You know how many votes that one person has? One. $100 million, one vote. Now, that means that without that $100 million, that one vote, how much money did the Biden campaign and how much money did the Trump campaign make? The Biden campaign pulled in 85 million, large, mostly from medium-sized and small donors, and I'm sure there were a couple of ringers in there for a couple $100,000 that were bundlers or whatever at the big fundraiser he did in LA or something like that. But Trump's number without the 100 million from the single donor for the RNC, $41 million. This is a backfill. This is them trying to cover for the fact that, oh my God, we're pulling in half of what he's doing. They have to find some right-wing lunatic with way too much money to throw money their way.
Which pulled in $141 million, including nearly $53 million in a 24-hour period right after the guilty verdict in Trump's New York trial. All of this coming as new polls from Emerson College and The Hill show Trump leading Biden in 6 key swing states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
Yeah, all within the margin of error, and Trump was ahead in a couple of these by like 7 points 3 months ago.
In which a total of 77 electoral votes are at stake. Joining me now in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive with more on the debate prep is Trump Organization Executive Vice President and President Trump's son, Eric Trump. Eric, great to see you.
It's great to be here, Maria. They're trying to kill my father. They're trying to, this is terrible. I've never seen anything like this. Nobody even knows what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know what debate prep is. I was like, do you have to? Is that putting a worm on the hook in the hood? I don't know what debate prep, what that even is talking about. And the fact that we even have to do this, we have to do this, Maria.
Again, thank you so much for being here.
It's actually my Eric is getting pretty good. Pretty good.
Good morning, Maria.
So how is President Trump preparing for this upcoming CNN presidential debate?
Obviously, Maria, he's going through, he's got it all up here and in here and up here, and he doesn't even have to prepare. And also largely blazing rails of Adderall and Sudafed.
Well, obviously he takes it very seriously, but he's doing what he does. He's going all over the place campaigning. He was in inner city Philadelphia yesterday, which was an amazing thing, right?
He was in inner city Philadelphia the other day.
Republicans just don't normally have the backbone to do, and you saw him do that in the Bronx, and you saw him do that in Queens.
Oh yeah, we saw it all right. And you notice how tight this camera was and how he didn't tell him to turn around because the rafters were empty. The place holds 10,000. There was less than 5,000 in there. It was people from all over the state. They were bussing in Republicans from red districts all over the place to pretend they were from there. There was a guy behind him just making Trump hands as a joke because they had paid people to be sign holders.
He's doing that all over the country, and I'm proud of him. And the crowds that he's drawing and the diversity is really
crowds.
Incredible. But Maria, at the same time, make no mistake, this is still CNN, right? This is Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper has compared my father to Hitler before, right? I mean,
yeah, but I think he was just quoting J.D. Vance.
Jake Tapper is the guy who will yell at his control room, say, turn this man off. I don't want to hear what he has to say. Or when my father's.
Yes, I hate when people say, I don't want to hear what he has to says. It bugs me. It does. It's just that phrase, just what he has to says.
Press conferences. I mean, I can't tell you who these people are. You know.
Yeah, I believe you. I don't think you know anything any more about this than when your dad was first elected president.
Who they are. You've seen them before. I saw them as I walked into a courtroom every day, where they're sitting there with grins on their face. I mean, just ear to ear smiles.
Yeah, just one big grin across 7 faces.
Right. So understand that he's not just going to be debating Joe Biden.
Right, but Jake Tapper wasn't in the courtroom. What are you talking about? It- he knows it's not going to be moderated by the jury that just convicted him, right? What?
To be debating CNN, and I was a guy who never missed a debate. I've never missed one of my father's debate. I went to every.
You I wish I could say that I never missed one of my father's debates. Oh, wait, I can because my dad's an architect.
One of them, and go back to CNN debates in the primaries in 2016, right? It was the same.
Well, you had to because he didn't do any of the debates during this one, where he lost 30 to 40% of the Republican vote.
It was attack after attack. They can't help themselves, and you better believe that Biden's going to be getting a lot of a free pass, and you better believe that they're going to hit my father. But one other thing I need to mention, Maria, it's pretty telling of a president who has to go to Camp David in the middle of the woods and lock himself effectively in a bunker for an 8-day period of time because his policies are so bad that he has to figure out some way to polish them up and try and sugarcoat them.
Well, at least he didn't. I will say he is at Camp David part of the time. He's not there the, the whole time. But this is basically going to be the only debate, so it kind of matters. And also, the first one's always the most important. But at least he didn't invite the Taliban to join him. So say what you will about Camp David, but I do think it's points Biden for not inviting the Taliban
And try and frame them with all of his top advisors. And I can tell you, my father.
Yeah, saying stuff like, it's no longer infrastructure week. We passed the biggest infrastructure bill and the only infrastructure bill in the last 3 decades. And it's one of the reasons why the job market is so resilient is not just because of the jobs that are directly created through these projects, but all the ancillary jobs for the people that are feeding and housing and clothing and entertaining these people as they build our roads and bridges and stuff and make them more resilient for the future. That kind of thing. What's it? Yeah, he's going to sit there. How do I make lowering the cost of insulin to $35 sound good? That's the problem, because it just sounds mean.
Not doing that. My father's on the right side of these issues, and
Is he? What's that? What side would that be? The side that has a plan and will show you in 2 weeks, forever.
10 days or 8 days in the woods in Camp David to try and explain yourself to the American people. I'm not exactly sure if that's if that's a big showing of confidence.
Well, I mean,
It sounds. I gotta say, he sounds confident. Chat room. He sounds very. I don't know if that's he's get. What he's starting. He's like channeling Paul Manafort. That's what our position is.
look, you raise a couple of important points
Yeah.
on the Camp David situation. I mean, look, the world doesn't stop. We've still got our adversaries. They're coming at us. Communist.
So you're saying Trump shouldn't have golfed all that time that he was in office? It was just too much. The golf is too much golfing. Enough with the golfing already. Thank you, Maria. I appreciate that.
China, Iran, Russia. I mean, so.
Who I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with it. Oh, I know. You're talking about the countries that Biden has sanctioned more than any other president in American history. Right. Sorry, go ahead.
For him to take himself out of the situation and sort of go and, hold up in Camp David, I mean, we pray nothing happens, that he's not.
Yeah, he's napping this whole time. It's a vacation. That's what's happened. When you go to Camp David, I don't even know. Do they have a phone there? Jesus Christ. Camp David is practically a part of NORAD, you dummy.
In the White House, but
And by the way, she is so trying to frame this like Camp David is actual camp. Look, Eric, this is no time for him to, be in a tent, pooping in a baggie and then hanging the groceries up so the bears don't get him. This is not. I know. This is Maria. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. It was my father. He wouldn't be at Camp David. He'd be golfing, or showing our nuclear secrets to one of our, one of the Saudi princes.
the thing on Jake Tapper. The other day, I saw a clip of Jake Tapper, and somebody
Oh, clips are the worst.
on Twitter, I think, and he said
You think?
to one of his colleagues, let's remember what happened in the 2020 debate. Trump brought up Biden's family taking money from China. And President Biden said it wasn't true, but now we know otherwise. It was true. Actually, Biden lied. Jake.
No, he didn't. he was specifically talking about the whole, like, they got $1.2 billion out of China. He came in there in 1 week and walked out with $1 billion. They're talking about a very specific thing. And he was like, that thing with China that he was talking about, he was referencing that specifically. They weren't talking about other deals that went away, and that's absurd. The thing that he was, he put the pin in was the $1.2 billion thing. Nobody gives a crap if CEFC. I mean, at this point, here's on the scandal meter. CFC wants to buy a natural gas plant in Louisiana. Hunter Biden is setting up a conduit for them to do it, but he's insisting they have to start an American company to do the sale through, and they refuse. Deal falls apart. Meanwhile, Jamie Comer, is buying weed from China and having it shipped to Murray State University. Right?
Tapper said that. I saw the clip. I mean, I don't think it was made up. I saw the clip. So if he knows that, do you think he would bring up this influence peddling investigation?
Of course they're going to bring it up. Of course they are. And I would argue that Biden and his team are working out ways to deflate it as quickly as possible and move on to something valuable, like you do in a debate.
House Oversight Committee is doing against Joe Biden? I don't know. Or is it the CNN rules that he won't be allowed to bring up that? Because James.
Yeah, it's this. Yeah, I think it's probably CNN rules. Probably they have posted by the bathroom next to "Please don't wash your hands."
Is using words like money laundering and bribery and influence peddling. I don't know. Do you think he would bring that up, or would that be against the CNN rules?
If he's intellectually honest, he would.
Yeah, I think he should bring it up. Absolutely. Especially the part where Trump got $17 million into a secret Chinese bank account that had never had $700,000, more than $700,000 in it in the past. And he took 15 million of it directly out of the account, like a billionaire who really needs, who doesn't need any money would do. And kept it there right after he killed the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was meant to be a bulwark against Chinese hegemony in the industrial space in the South China Seas. I mean, you could bring that up. Yeah, maybe. What do I know?
But it would absolutely be against the CNN rules. I mean, look at the last debate. My father and Caitlin Collins, or the town hall that it won.
That wasn't a debate. It was a town hall. You have to answer questions, and why wouldn't you expect to get some tough questions even from the people, or because it's a town hall? That wasn't a debate, stupid. And I'm fairly certain you didn't watch that all the way through.
Nasty question after the next. I was so proud of him. He killed it. He did so well in that. But I mean, I just don't think these people can help themselves. I mean, don't.
Yeah, I know what it is. It's probably something at CNN. I don't know if it's maybe their hiring practice or something, but they keep hiring people who look an adjudicated rapist in the face and go, "This guy's a fucking punk, and I don't want him anywhere near me." You know what I mean? Like that would be I don't know. It's like maybe it's like a CNN reaction.
Forget, Maria, and this point often gets lost. Remember in 2016 when Donna Brazile admitted that Hillary Clinton was given the debate questions ahead of time? Like, these games are played behind the scenes. The only person that they're not played with is Donald Trump, because the mainstream media absolutely detests him. The good news is the American.
First of all, I call bullshit on got the questions ahead of time. Specifically, who didn't know what the topics were going to be going into that? And it was going to be largely about guns. Specifically that debate was going to be because we just had a mass shooting and how to deal with it. That was going to be the primary focus of it. She didn't get a tee up. They had a real reason to expect where it was going to go. But the idea that they got here's the answers to the test, so you could it's multiple choice or something. You can know what the questions are coming and still flub them. You could also what's the idea? What do you think Hillary Clinton did? You think she only studied in the debate for stuff that the network would bring up? Think she's that dumb?
People love him.
Because that's what Trump would do.
The good news, back to your, it's bad news for our country, but believe me, the American people know his eye is not on the ball in terms of China or in terms of the Middle East or in terms of any other policy that matters to this country. And that's why he can take 8 days. My father would have never done that. He could have never done that because his eye was actually on the ball. But,
But he golfed more than any president in history. He was at his own properties at taxpayer expense. I mean, it was really, I would argue that it was less about him even like relaxing and golfing and more about him going, okay, let's strategically put the Secret Service and the entire support team around me in each of my properties so they have to and charge them above market rate to stay there, above market rate for food, above market rate for any kind of telecommunications setup that they have, charge them double for their like security around me, even though they're there to save my life and protect the country, and we'll just pad each property as we go.
This guy, those things are out of sight, out of mind for this man. He doesn't know what's going on. I mean, look how
Eric, Eric, Bubby, tell us all what exactly you think he's missing on. Because if you go Russia, we just hit them with a new run of sanctions. You don't know that. What about the Chips and Science Act? You don't know that. What I mean, what area have we not either put more sanctions or put more like strategically dealt with better and tighter than when God, Trump didn't even give a shit about half of these, but at what time were we doing more than this? Seriously, about any of these players.
bad Russia and Ukraine's gotten. Look how bad the Middle East has gotten. Look
Yeah, how bad Russia, Ukraine's gone. Because Republicans were scuttling funding. Now it's better. Now it's a lot better.
how bad our inflation is. I mean, our
No, was how bad our inflation was.
economy is definitely teetering out. I mean, I'm just predicting it right now. It is teetering out as we
The economy is teetering out.
hear and speak, and we've got real problems. I mean, real problems around.
Yeah, real problems. And he can define them for you. Besides, he doesn't have to say generic terms like teetering out. You mean petering out? You do realize the phrase is petering out. Nope, nothing teeters. Nothing teeters out. You weird little man.
World, we're losing our currency. We're losing our
We are?
standing. We're losing everything.
Well,
And the guys
We are. Everything's lost. I can't find anything. I think like Trump's probably gonna he'll probably reveal this at the debate, but he wants to air tag everything. Make America get air tags. That'd be the
be hunkered down in Camp David trying to memorize lines again to explain horrible policy decisions that he's made over the last 3.5 years.
well, meanwhile,
if you see him losing steam and all these. I mean, honestly, look at his face right now. Take a moment. Your father was president. You've been a third generation silver spoon for your entire existence. You've never had to work a day in your life except when you had to go into the office on some days and your dad would yell at you as if you were a stranger just because he's that way towards his sons. I would consider that work. That on that day you're working harder than any other employee because you should be loved and you aren't. Not an excuse, but just an observation. But on top of that, imagine this: your dad has been president. He's he's arguably tied in the polls the way they talk about it. You still have this army of idiots who will buy anything you throw at them, allegedly. Again, the numbers don't bear that out, but it certainly you've been able to maintain the illusion that they want to buy all this shit, right? And then you're on TV and that's what your face looks like. Does that look like you're buying the winning story? Does that look like the face of somebody who knows things are going well?
look, you've got a sentencing coming up for your father, July.
That's true. That's a good thing. Thanks, Maria. Right about like I honestly I was wondering how big you were going to let this balloon inflate before you stuck it.
11th, just a few days before the Republican National Convention. What are you expecting from this sentencing?
I'm nervous.
Yeah, well, shocking. I think the next evening I take the stage at the RNC. Go figure that. Out of all the dates that the judge could have put this, they have to put it. The day before. Maybe the biggest day outside of Election Day in an election cycle. I mean,
Were they going to do it after he gets the nomination? Were they going to punt it extra weeks because he's special? Sorry.
Maria, this is planned, and again, the American people see through.
Yes, it is planned. As a matter of fact, there are like rules about the sentencing. The timing of it between when you get convicted and your sentencing.
All of this. The judge couldn't have picked a date 2 days later. He had to do it right before. You know,
Yeah, I agree. He should have done it right when Trump was supposed to speak. Brilliant, dummy. Why Maria, it's ridiculous. Okay. He could have given, you know, he could have given him the day I was speaking because he never listened to me anyways. Or he could have given him the next day when he's supposed to speak and they could have sentenced him and he could have given his speech and they could have just recorded him just pushing back and then post that. That would work too.
and it's why people realize that George is a sham and the Boxes case is a sham and
No, they don't. They don't feel that at all.
Mershon's a sham and the daughter, raising the amount of money that she's been reportedly raising is also a sham and a conflict. And
How's it a sham? I don't know. Okay. All right. Sham. I don't. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
the more they do this, the more the American people see how kind of persecuted and ostracized. And you
And that's why the areas where he would, my father was far ahead. It's why the polls are narrowing and why he's showing up being underwater in a lot of these places now, Maria, because the people could see through this and they're like, yeah, he's he's a convict.
in your opening about African American support, and you mentioned that certain communities are coming over my father. It's exactly because of this. They're doing the same to Donald Trump as they did to so many of those communities for so long.
Yeah, he's the new Rosa Parks. Yes, we've heard this before. He's the new Emmett Till. That's the story you guys keep pushing. He's basically black now. That's the argument. It's a great one. How can that possibly go wrong? How can that argument, chat room, I gotta say, folks, how in the world can that possibly backfire? And they all do it. They all do it. Everybody around him, son of sham, right? Yeah, Central Park 5, exactly. Yeah.
These people are saying, it's really interesting. They did this to us for a long time. Now they're doing it to him. I might actually want to vote for the guy, who will fight back against this as we have tried to for so long. And
Yes, as we have tried to overcome for so long. I can't wait for, I mean, obviously from the crowd that at the black church that he went to, you could tell he's truly resonating with the people who feel, I guess, at most at odds with society around them.
I think that's why my father has done so incredibly well. And I think that's why some of these inner cities are embracing.
He's first of all, he lost the last election. He's a one-termer. Welcome to the world of George H.W. Bush. And his even his tax cut was something that Mitch McConnell and them had already drafted and was sitting around for a long time. But he also cost them the midterms. There was no big red wave because of him. He's talked to everybody. Literally, he gave Democrats the Senate by telling his people that you couldn't trust the vote, so they didn't show up for the special election. He's a screw up.
Him to the extent that they are.
Well, I mean, look, Andy Biggs, Congressman Biggs, the other day came out with a timeline of meetings that he said took place between the prosecutors that have indicted your father and White House counsel. And Jesse Waters had a clip on his show the other night pointing to November 18th, saying that first Joe Biden comes out and says we have to make sure, as soon as your father announced that he's running for re-election, a couple of weeks later, Joe Biden comes out and he says, look, we have to make sure that Trump never returns to the White House. And then.
Yeah, because he's an insurrectionist and he sent people to attack the Capitol because of that. Because he supported the marchers at Charlotte who were saying Jews will not replace us.
9 days later, or a couple of weeks later, on November 18th is what Jesse said, those prosecutors had meetings with White House counsel. I mean, do you have evidence that, in fact, there.
Well, because it's a political thing as much as it is a legal thing, but they're going to have to coordinate. The president can direct Secret Service. The sitting president has a tremendous amount of control over what a former president has as far as rights and privileges. It's a big thing. You're going to have to talk to them. There's no way you don't. It's, by the way, it might be one of the reasons why Trump never ended up locking up Hillary, because he either couldn't be bothered to do the extra work, or when they came to him and said, okay, this is going to take this and this, and this, he just either lost interest or it scared him or he was just bored.
As a coordination with the White House to indict President Trump.
Of course. Michael Colangelo, the number 3 in the DOJ.
Colangelo is not a person. Also, you're thinking Michael Cohen and Colangelo and Colangelo. I like it. I make them, there's this two-headed monster that your dad fears.
He transferred from Washington, D.C. to New York City to prosecute everything that is Donald Trump. Could you imagine if the number 3 in Donald Trump's administration and Donald Trump's DOJ went to Delaware to prosecute everything relating?
Can you imagine if one of Trump's judges that he appointed, who had no record of being a judge before, is now in charge of a classified documents case because he stole them and took them to his fucking golf resort that he hangs out in? I don't know if it's not a golf resort. It's just a rental facility. It's basically a big Airbnb for douchebags. And can you imagine if the judge in charge of that was appointed by the person that they were actually trying to get a search warrant for or trying to take to court? I mean, I'd be shocked that can you imagine that person not recusing themselves?
To Joe Biden? There would be riots in the streets. The mainstream media would go crazy. Of course there's coordination. And beyond coordination, Maria, you have the White House logs where all of these...
What do you mean? First of all, there was. The Jeff Galanis story, the whole, like him and Devin Archer going after, stealing money from Indian tribes and from these, I guess they were union pension funds. They dropped the case in 2017 when Trump got in, and then picked it up in 2020 in the election year so that they could use it as a cudgel. Didn't work because Hunter Biden had nothing to do with that, but they tried to use it as a way of dovetailing some of the dirt into the media conversation.
People, right? They're all going in and out. They're all trading notes. Of course, this is a coordinate.
Again, what does it matter if there are no notes to coordinate on? If there's no evidence, it doesn't matter. People can, especially with all the sunlight that's on this thing, like if the evidence isn't true, what are you worried about? This is not the average citizen. This is not the average person in a courtroom situation where they might not be able to hire a private detective or somebody to look into what witnesses are saying or something like that, right? This is not a situation where somebody is out of pocket for their death sentence appeal, those kind of things. Like, there is unlimited resources, not only like for Trump in terms of supposedly his own resources as a rich person with access to good lawyers, which some reason he doesn't have. But the other aspect is that the White House and the DOJ have to take steps to protect him more than any other defendant.
Attempt by Soros-backed prosecutors in conjunction with the White House. You think the FBI would raid the house of Donald Trump and Mar-a-Lago, one of the most famous homes in the world?
Not a home. Not a home. It's a wedding, it's like a party rental facility. It's basically like a party city. It's like a Halloween store, pop-up Halloween store.
Without asking their boss first? Of course they wouldn't. This whole thing's coordinated.
Well, of course they have to let him know that it's happening. Of course they did, by the way. That's why the whole thing, like they sent the FBI to kill me, is nonsense, because they let him know when it was going to happen, and he left town, so he wouldn't be there. So he wouldn't have to make him stand outside like a dipshit in his silk pajamas.
And the American people understand that.
Okay.
And look at him, though. And American people understand that. Man. I don't know. Something hurts. It hurts. Like right here. I don't know if it's that whole thing, like sitting through my dad's porn star hush money thing. Well, my little brother, was at home with my dad's new wife, who's, two wives past the one that's mine that he buried on a golf course with no headstone. I don't know. I can't stop defending him, Maria. I'm so excited. I'm going to be there for him forever.
Real quick, are you comfortable with the rules that CNN came out with for the CNN presidential debate? Are you comfortable with so far the
Maria, it's like UFC. There should be no rules except the rules that benefit us.
Field as your father enters on Thursday?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with my father. He's got the right message. He's got the love of America behind him, and he's gonna do awesome. He always does.
Good, you awesome. He always does. I mean, he lost basically every debate during the Biden debates, and and he didn't even show up for the primary ones this time. So,
He's good,
Eric, it's great to have you this morning. Of course, we're all watching, and we so appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
it's gorgeous. By the way, hi folks. Folks, hello, hi, how you doing? Chat room, like, subscribe, hit that thumbs up. We got a large crowd in here today. I wish I had better production value. So, will there be a talking snakes? Yeah. Um, I just want Jake Tapper to just go. Our next question comes from uh uh Joe TP, maybe Joe the plumber. Are we sure? That says, why do you keep stealing Sarah Palin's drill baby drill line like it's your own? And why don't you have the snake memorized by now? Is that curious to you? Wouldn't you have it memorized by now if you've done it that many times? Wouldn't you? I mean, wouldn't you be able to do it at least with just like just bullet points? Yeah. I think Sarah Palin should just walk by and whack him upside the head. That's my line. All right, next up, we've got Steve Ducey, his theory about the debates this week, which I will be covering on Thursday. Steve Ducey, Biden's team is trying to figure out how to get under Trump's skin. Well, there's a lot of room, I'll give you that, especially in the folds around here. But we sh- we shall see what we shall see. Here goes Steve Ducey, and I mean, hey, come on, this is a storied news gatherer. He's the Cronkite of, I don't know, people who tried to hold their breath for too long when they were kids repeatedly and unfortunately suffered damage from it.
Of two candidates. Prep for Thursday's CNN presidential debate looks quite different, with Donald Trump rallying
Not prepping.
blue city voters and
Yeah. Rallying blue city voters. Okay. Again, there's less than 5,000 people in a 10,000 seat arena. They came from all over the state because it's his only one in Pennsylvania. He's doing this to create this idea that we're like gaining in areas where Biden is doing because nobody's buying it. And it's like the upper thing was completely empty. Behind the press stand was empty. Same thing that happened. Just maybe 2,000 people more than showed up in Vegas to that pitiful gathering.
Biden hunkered down in a cabin at Camp David. And now with
A cabin at Camp David. All right, yeah. Let's a cabin. Cabin. Let's see. Let's see. Camp David. This is Camp David. Um, Known formally that camp, by the way.
big night approaching on Thursday.
Oh, shut up, Steve. Hold on. Known formally as the Naval Support Facility Thermont, Camp David is the president's country residence. That's right. This camp is a naval support facility. Like I said, it's basically another NORAD. Okay. Located in Catoctin, Catoctin, Fakakta Mountain Park in Frederick County, Maryland. Camp David has offered every president since Franklin Roosevelt an opportunity for solitude and tranquility, as well as an ideal place to work and host foreign leaders. Yeah, because that's one of the weird things is anytime a president hosts foreign leaders, as long as they're not the Taliban, if anything happens, like if there was a nuclear war, they wouldn't even know it. It's just so peaceful up there. All right. Adapted from the federal employee retreat, High Catoctin, High Fakakta, President Franklin Roosevelt had originally established residence as USS Shangri-La, modeling the new main lodge after the Roosevelt Winter Vacation Home in Warm Springs, Georgia. President Eisenhower subsequently renamed the institution in honor of his grandson, David. Camp David has been used extensively to host foreign dignitaries. Prime Minister Winston Churchill of Great Britain attended the first such meeting in the May of 1943. Summit held at the residence in 78. Blah, blah, blah. This is a stay connected thing. Okay, it's 175 acres. 125, sorry, my bad. 125 acres. It's this country retreat. There's a main lodge there. It is again a naval, technically a military installation. Camp David is technically a military installation. Its staffing is primarily provided by the Seabees, Civil Engineer Corps, and the United States Navy and the Marines. Naval construction battalions are tasked with Camp David construction and send detachments as needed. Haifa Kakta over there. Let's see if the G8 summit was hosted there. Obama also had Dmitry Medvedev there, who's a lunatic. Trump hosted Senate Majority Mitch McConnell and Speaker of the House Paul Ryan at Camp David while the Republican Party prepared to defend both houses of Congress in the 2018 midterms. How'd that work? So they just all gathered up there before the 2018 midterms, and then he shit the bed. Fabulous. And the U.S.-Japan-Korea summit with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Yoon Suk-yeol at Camp David in 2023, resulting in the declaration of the Camp David Principles on trilateral relations between U.S., Japan, and South Korea. Very functional, very cool. And this is the main lodge. Fabulous. Look at all the snow up there. It's honest to God, I feel like I want to go on an ice plunge. Your brother was a CB? Oh, well, awesome. And let's see. Hey, Boston Brian, what's happening? Maybe we'll bring that Trump invited the Taliban there one year. Absolutely. I don't think they're gonna.
Democrats are sounding the alarm as their financial advantage has vanished.
No, it hasn't.
Donor telling Politico, quote, there was this strategy of raising all this money on the front end so we could have this huge edge. Now we're even, and it's June. I have no other word for it other than depression among Biden supporters.
I got news for you. It's all going to be gone soon. The Trump money is already spent. He's going to use it to prop up his facilities. I almost called them his houses, but he doesn't have one. And he's going to use and his businesses, and he's going to pay his lawyers with some of it. And none of it is going to go. That's why that person gave $100 million to the RNC and not to him, because they weren't getting any. He was sucking it all up, and it was all gone.
Democratic pollster and Stagwell CEO Mark Penn joins us right now. Mark, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You didn't think to ask the room about your outfit? Just go, what do you think? Tan shirt against weird gold beige background. Yeah, 20% say absolutely. I'm in the main category. 60% of the votes went, you might want to rethink it. And then 10 refused to have an opinion.
Okay, so they both have a lot of money, but really, who cares about the money? Because on Thursday night, it's just mano a mano, baby.
What I love to say that or whatever. It's funny. I don't know if you guys know this, but if you look at Steve Ducey, he's basically Ted Nugent with Trump's haircut. Shaved Ted Nugent's beard off, and his taint. He's got a taint, a mustache, taint, a beard, and dyes hair. Kind of like I don't know, highlighter. And tell me that that's not him with glasses on, and you never see him in the same room. This is Ted Nugent's doofus alter ego.
I think that's right. No matter, look, first of all, I think they're both going to have tons of money. And I think it's always good for a campaign to say, I need money. So that message from the Biden campaign is like, send me more. And I think everybody will send them money, probably $12 billion. But no matter how
probably $12 billion. I'm so glad we had this dude on.
Money you have, that debate comes down to which candidate can really hack it for 90 minutes in front of what could be 100 million people.
Unbelievable. And here's the thing.
Why is it not believable? This is how we always have them. The unbelievable part is that we may only have one, and Trump might not even show for this one. He will, by the way.
I wonder if Republicans have set the bar too low for
You think?
Biden, because they talk about how he's lost it.
Oh, they do? Sorry, Steve. They do? They do. You mean is in the they you include, I suppose, your fucking son? Yeah.
But if a guy shows up on Thursday night and he doesn't fall asleep and he's loud like he was at the State of the Union, I think a lot of people are going to say, look, Joe Biden came alive. He was great.
Yeah, I think Biden's going to come out attacking in this debate, from start to finish. I think that's probably the strategy. That's been the strategy of the campaign. And I think this is, high risk for both candidates. Biden falters. He doesn't have the nomination yet. Trump falters.
Yes, he does. They're doing a like a digital roll call to get around the Ohio thing. He's got the nomination. Shut up.
All his momentum is blocked. This is as high stakes as it gets, and I'm surprised, frankly, Trump agreed to all of the rules.
No, it isn't. By the way, I would like to say for the record, this is not as high stakes as it gets. It is not. You know why? Because Biden is president now. He's president now. He's president no matter what happens till January of next year. If it was ultimate high stakes, neither one of them would be in office, and and both parties would be up against the situation where neither of them have somebody in office that they have direct control over, or is their preferred candidate going into the next bout.
That he agreed to.
Well, he wanted, we heard him say, I'm ready to debate anytime, anywhere, just name it. And finally, Joe Biden had a list of stuff, and Trump went along with all of it. So what you're saying is right now at Camp David, Joe Biden's surrounded by everybody. They're going through the facts and figures, and they're trying to figure out how to get under Donald Trump's skin, because they would love to have a repeat of the last debate.
No, I think they would like to build on the last debate. I mean, you could even say people should go and watch our last debate because many of those things are still germane to the conversation. You can check my record having passed an infrastructure bill, for example, to his infrastructure week forever. You can look at my record of championing women's issues to him saying women need to be punished if they get an abortion and carrying it out. Look at the last debate too. Don't just watch tonight. After you're done watching tonight, and I think this will be a good one worth watching, go back and watch the last debate. And then check our records for accomplishment against each other. And you go to joebiden.com, we have a list of them. Like, that's how you do that.
Oh, I think that's exactly right. Look, I've been there. I've been there in the debate preps, the hours and hours of going through every conceivable question and trying.
Yes. So you haven't worked with Trump, is what you're saying.
Not to miss any. And I think Biden's going to come really well prepared. He's got a very smart operation, and Donald Trump brings himself and is out there getting
and that's it.
Experience with voters.
Yeah, he's out there getting experience with voters, and how he's floating certain things he's going to use, like shark versus electric shock.
And that's what he views as debate prep. Right. A little risky to me, but we'll see.
It's not risky. It's stupid and lazy. He doesn't want to do the homework. And he's embarrassed if he has to. He's a guy who does not want to study or practice for anything because that means you're weak. If you don't know it already, or you can't convince other people you know it already, never let them watch you learning.
It works.
Yeah. The Washington Post.
That's why he doesn't drive a car. Why doesn't it like? That's why he would never get a black belt in anything, because he doesn't have the emotional and philosophical fortitude to be a white belt ever. He doesn't have the humility to walk into a space and go, I don't know anything, teach me, to anyone ever in his life. It's always been hostile to the idea that he doesn't already, because he's basically a permanent 14-year-old.
Is reporting this morning that apparently Trump's advisors are coaching him to focus on the issues that he polls the best in. So in other words, immigration, crime, and the economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, focus on immigration. Biden will go, we have a border bill. You can look at the text right now. Everybody, I would encourage you, either during the break or over the next couple of days after this debate is over, go read the text of the border bill. Tell me it's not one of the toughest border bills you've ever seen. And this guy told every Republican who was going to vote for it to vote against it because he wanted to talk about it tonight like he's doing. That's it. I don't want to tell you what they're going to tell him to say, but that's it. And also, by the way, he gave a pass to Venezuelans for 18 months as his last act in office, basically tying our hands for almost 2 years, dealing with people who'd come back into the country. And then, of course, the wall, if you want to get into the access wall, that, the access road on the Mexican side of the border that allows people to basically roll a suitcase over terrain that they used to have to climb over with a pickaxe.
Stay on message, they say, and you'll win.
Well, so they're saying you're going to lose.
Well, look, I think that's great. I think that's great advice. Look, who's really at stake? Nikki Haley voters and soft Democrats. So Donald.
No, there are no soft Democrats in this situation. There aren't. There are no soft Democrats. And Nikki Haley voters have like they continue to vote against this dude for months and months.
Trump has his base. I think Biden has his base, even though a lot of I think people have scared him that he doesn't have his base. So if Biden goes to the base and Trump goes to the center, that's the best strategy for Trump. If they,
Yeah. So Trump just comes out and just pretends like just do a wash of everything he says. He moves to the center. You know what he does when he moves to the center? He keeps the maggots that think like, look, he may be saying he'll do stuff that's normal, but we know he's going to go in there and be the man. And the ones that he's lying for Jesus crowd, right? He may say he's for a 15 wink limit, but we all know he really, he's going to go in there and put a federal abortion ban out there. Just trust him, right? There's that group. They're never going to leave him, no matter what he says. They'll hear what they want to hear because they think he's lying on their behalf, and in a lot of cases he is. But the rest of them are going to go, "You're betraying us." I mean, look at the giving visas, green cards to people who have college degrees, immigrants who have college degrees in the United States. They're they weren't done crapping on Biden for that before Trump came out with a similar policy and then had to walk it back because everybody panicked around him.
both go
There's a dozen articles on Politico, Axios, all these sites about how he's trying to have both sides of that issue and everybody's mad at him.
to their base, then this debate might well never have happened. It won't matter.
Exit question about the vice presidential sweepstakes. It sounds like Trump said he knows who it is, hadn't told that person yet.
Yeah, he's got a plan for who the VP is going to be in 2 weeks. You'll know in 2 weeks.
Who makes the most sense to you to be his running mate?
Well,
But let's see, who would push him out of the way and make all the Dick Cheney.
I think Rubio and Scott probably, to me, make the most sense.
Right. So that'll never happen.
Again, in the theory that reaching out, across.
What? Oh, hold on. Rubio does not reach across the aisle. Neither does Scott. First of all, Scott's not going to happen. But Rubio is not going to happen either. And there's no reaching across the aisle with whoever's VP pick is. That's ridiculous. And he's never going to even allow that. He doesn't need a VP to do the reaching across the aisle for him.
Party lines is probably the strongest, but I hear insiders say J.D. Vance has been coming up quite strongly.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Bunch of people playing videos of J.D. Vance calling Trump Hitler over and over again, and a bunch of maggots going, "Oh man, he's just pretending to like him so that he can get in there and take everything away." Did you hear what he said about him? Like, I mean, he made him say those things.
I'll be watching on Thursday night.
They will be watching.
Man, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You bet.
You bet. Super fun. Great. I think we all learned something. By the way, hi everybody. Like, subscribe, hit the thumbs up. Yeah, Vance is an opportunist. I'm not too worried about him. But like the problem with Vance is it's a fame push. People will think, oh, this is the next generation of maggot, and Trump can't allow that. Rand Paul, no, it can't. Like that's why a lot of people think it's Doug Burgum or one of those. He'll surprise with somebody that's not even on the list. That's another relative nobody in that regard, or another semi-evangelical. Yeah, that's the issue. And if he does pick somebody who's like a JD Vance, who actually has kind of like this, a media presence, how long will it be? How long will it be before that person says something that gets more positive attention than Trump wants them to have? Yeah. Yeah, I think he'll be there. No, it's not going to be Don Jr. None of the Trump kids can withstand the scrutiny. That's a huge issue. So, okay. Next up, if I will, let's see. And then, yeah. All right. So, Mark Levin, um, there are topics. I'm hard pressed to find a topic that Mark Levin isn't a complete dud on. And I have looked because honestly, I have to say, little backstory, if I will, if I may, chat room. A little known fact about the fact that John McCain was called Maverick by everybody, or called a Maverick, or they started calling him Maverick in the 80s. Reason they started calling him that was not a compliment. It was it was a reference to how Maverick got goose killed. And so they're like, yeah, he's a Maverick, all right. He's Maverick from Top Gun, right? He's all into himself. He's, self-congratulatory, and that'll get you killed. So the idea that Maverick was a compliment, it was not. There's um there's a similar thing I see with Levin, or Mark Levin, where they're saying he's the great one. They keep calling him the great one. I have no idea what that's supposedly based on. I'm sure maybe it has something to do with his time working in government around it, or they just like to say it, or they can't come up with anything substantial. You know what I mean? Like, it's like if you called somebody the closer, right? That would have to have some meaning, right? If you'd have to show some evidence that they are capable of closing, right? It would make sense to call him that. They call him the great one, and I gotta. It feels like they're trying to find a way to compliment him, and they can't. They can't come up with one that actually applies to him as a person or anything that he's done. So they just call him the great one. That's it. Yeah. Oh, and it's not going to be MTG. But anyways, so here we go. Let's see what he says. And the title of this one is Biden is giving China absolutely everything it wants. Peter Schweitzer. So he's got him on as a guest. Government Accountability Institute President Peter Schweitzer warns against Biden's posture that China is our friend on. Okay, right. Jesus.
Welcome back, America. Peter Schweitzer. Is Joe Biden bought and paid for by the communist Chinese? I've never seen a.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. Yeah, because that's what they wanted. They paid for this. They paid for him to get the Chips and Science Act through. They paid for him to keep all of Trump's tariffs and double down on them. He paid for them to form the AUKUS agreement that gives nuclear powered submarines to Australia so that they can patrol the waters in the South China Seas and around Taiwan. They paid him so that he would put more American troops as trainers on the beach in Taiwan so that if China attacked, they would have to kill U.S. soldiers to do that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what they've always wanted, Mark.
President like this, who is so close to an enemy government, he flatlines our military.
Military spending has gone up every year Biden's been in office. He flatlines our military. So he killed them all. What did he do? Give them a lethal injection? He just gave them morphine like it was a scene in Saving Private Ryan.
He doesn't really take steps to challenge China.
He doesn't really take steps to challenge China. Oh dear. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't want to have to do this, but I feel I have to. Um, um, let's see. Let's just pick the nearest one. This is in May, if I could. There you go. Fact sheet. President Biden takes action to protect American workers and businesses from China's unfair trade practices. Biden is the first president that I have ever seen, again, since pre-Nixon, that has referred to what China does in terms of intellectual property or technological theft as stealing. Biden's economic plan is supporting investments and creating good jobs in key sectors that are vital for America's economic future and national security. China's unfair trade practices concerning technology transfer, intellectual property, and innovation are threatening American businesses and workers. China is also flooding global markets with artificially low-priced exports. In response to China's unfair trade practices and to counteract the resulting harms today, President Biden is directing his trade representative to increase tariffs under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974 on $18 billion worth of imports from China to protect American workers and businesses. I don't know. How did China pay for that? Would you direct somebody to do that? Is this just the world's biggest economic rope-a-dope where China's just saying, you know what? To beat America, we'll let them I just catastrophically destroy our economy.
He attacks Netanyahu, but he certainly is slobbering all over Xi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just you mean the part where, well, hold on. I think wasn't it Trump who said like he and Xi get along very, very well, and he trusts him implicitly during COVID?
Do we have, in effect, the Manchurian president in the Oval Office who wants
Gee, sounds like a leading question. I'm guessing your guest is going to say yes, but it's worse.
to be the reelected Manchurian candidate?
Well, I think if you go back and look at a speech in November 28th of 2020 given by a Chinese official before hundreds of other senior Chinese officials, in that speech, Mark, this is right after the 2020 election, this speaker talks about the fact that the Biden's businesses were funded by the Chinese, which elicits giggles and laughter in the audience. He then goes
Right, because these are accusations made by Trump, and everybody was laughing at the fact that that wasn't the case. That's the story. They're laughing at what Trump was saying about it.
to say we have old friends now at the core, at the center of American power. That is the Chinese view. And when you look at the flow of money, who it came from, it's crystal clear to me what their objective was and what the results have been. The Biden
Really?
received they've got 4 Chinese businessmen that have sent them tens of millions of dollars. Each one of those 4 businessmen has ties to Chinese intelligence.
All Chinese businessmen have ties to Chinese intelligence, including all the ones that Trump worked with and Eric Trump went over and said and started business with. Everybody, because that's how China works. Anybody who says differently goes, no, what our business there is different. It's because they're looking the other way.
Some of them have ties to criminal gangs. Right now, where we sit,
which I guess is morally slightly better than the CP in your estimation?
his own intelligence community is telling him the threat from China is unprecedented. It's something that we have not seen for generations.
No, you're talking about the folks that your candidate allegedly believes sent a bioweapon to kill us all. But now it's worse. Now a warning?
Posture that Joe Biden has adopted is that China is our friends. They are our partners.
Is it as our friends? China is our friends. Also, until COVID, Trump was kissing their butt. He delayed his COVID response just to finish his trade deal with them, which wasn't shit.
So we have a commander-in-chief whose family received tens of millions of dollars from these.
And in spite of that, is tougher on China than anyone in history. Let me tell you something. If Joe Biden was bribed by China, they did not get their money's worth. And in effect, he said, I'll take your bribe money and I'm still going to screw you because you're the bad guys and I don't care. If you're dumb enough to give me money, you're not going to get what you want. How else am I supposed to read this? If you believe what this guy's saying, that China bribed Biden, what did they get in return besides the heaviest sanctions they've ever seen and basically international isolation?
Interested parties in China, and look at the policy results and the posture that he's taking.
You mean the Chips and Science Act, which he signed into law? I'm just guessing that a Manchurian candidate would have not signed it into law.
These are absolutely connected. There's no way you can disconnect them.
Well, let's look at this too. He lifts sanctions against Iran, which is our enemy, while he's basically effectively putting arms and ammunition sanctions on Israel. He's lying about it, but he's slow walking it.
Yes, just make it, it doesn't sound bad enough, so just pretend it is. That's a great rhetorical tool that you can use in case anything you want to use against your opponent looks well within the margins of normal behavior. Just go, it's probably a lot worse. I mean, you could argue that that's Trump's entire style.
And so all this oil is flowing to China, a great deal of it, enriching Iran.
No, it isn't.
Also, when you look at the electric.
Keep trying. Like, again, he knows this isn't the fact now. Both of them do. Both of them do. And again, Iran sold oil to South Korea under Trump. That's the $6 billion that was going to be released in exchange for the hostages. Biden got the hostages released in exchange for the $6 billion and then never gave them the $6 billion. It still, to this day, sits in a South Korean bank. Not a dime has been spent on anything that Iran would use it for, even humanitarian aid, which would, in their theory and what they're pushing forward, that okay, you give them food, and now they don't have to spend this money on food. They can use it to buy guns.
Vehicle issue. The American people don't want it. He's destroying the combustion engine in these vehicles through the EPA, not through.
Oh, I see. That's the Carter 2.0 thing that he's destroying the combustion engine. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, he drives a Corvette, and your guy drives a golf cart.
Statute. And the people getting rich from this are the communist Chinese, because it's.
Yes, you're right. The Chinese economy is doing fantastically well right now.
Material. It's their resources that go into these vehicles while the American people are getting poorer and poorer. Is it possible that.
No, the American people are not getting poorer and poorer. The Chinese people are getting poorer and poorer.
Why wouldn't it be that the communist Chinese are blackmailing him? Is it possible?
With what? Pictures of his son smoking a cigarette in a bathtub? What do you think they're gonna do? Tell people he got high-end prostitutes and smoked crack? We know.
Actually blackmail Biden, but he kind of knows what they need and what they want. And so this is a man who cares mostly, number one, about himself, number two, about himself.
Oh my God. Again, the level of projection.
Number three, about himself and his power, and that he's delivered.
I mean, that it is a direct description of Trump. That's what that is. And by the way, this is what I guess Mark has to do for a living now. He has to take every terrible trait that he knows Donald Trump has and try to slather it on Biden and anybody else, I guess, on the other side of the aisle to create this illusion that it's not so much that, Trump's not a good guy, but everybody's corrupt in the wash, though. If you had to, if you flipped a coin, you'd hope it end up on the side that would kill your enemy the quickest. That's the idea that he's throwing around.
These things, even though they harm the United States and our economy, pretending it's about climate change, when in fact, it's about communist China.
Why would it be about communist China? We've opened like 9 friggin' battery factories in the United States, one of them in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district.
Yeah, I would argue that it's probably not a quid pro quo.
I agree. It's not probably a quid pro quo. It's probably a squid pro row.
Sense.
I'm sorry. What was that again?
Yeah, I would argue that it's probably not a quid pro.
Yeah, you're right. It might be. It might be a prick row squo. It could be a drid bro fro. It could be a quick afro. We don't know at this point. But whatever it is definitely not a.
Yeah, I would argue that it's probably not a quid pro in this.
Yeah, it's probably not that. Whatever it is, if it's anything, it's not whatever that is.
That we'll give you this money in return. It's more like a retainer agreement. We're your friends. We're good to your family. You be good to us.
And I guess they're mad now.
And I think that is manifested in these approaches. And by the way, let's be clear.
You mean the approach where he kept all of Trump's tariffs and sanctions and added on top of them? Honestly. It's like, has anybody ever been blackmailed this way in the history of the world? Has anybody got a call going, Hello. I want you to know I have uh, unfortunate pictures of you. I know you're not going to want to get out in a recording of you that is quite embarrassing and might ruin your standing in the community and perhaps your job prospects in the future. So if you don't meet my demands, I'm going to release them at midnight. Oh my God. Well, what do you want me to do? I want you to come over and kick me in the crotch as hard as you can. What? Yes. I will release these pictures and this video, this recording, if you do not come right over here and kick me in the crotch with everything you got. And if I feel like you're holding back at all, I'm just going to hand you a hammer and say, use this.
Very sophisticated about this, Mark. They call this strategy elite capture. And what they say when it comes to elite
Oh, you mean like when Trump got $17 million in his secret bank account while he was president and took 15 million of it out? Yeah.
capture is what they want is big help with a little bad mouth. In other words, it's okay if Joe Biden occasionally criticizes them.
Occasionally criticizes them by setting their tech sector back a decade. It's a criticism.
Says stop stealing our technology, stop doing terrible things to the Uyghurs. They expect him to do that because they know he has to maintain his political viability. But when it comes to the big things, the things that really matter to them,
Like,
which is access to our technology, access to our capital markets, access
which they don't have,
to our market,
which they are losing.
Biden is giving them absolutely everything they want. And that's, I think, the bottom
That's not even remotely true. It's like lazily untrue.
line.
Well, there's a reason why I'm sure the communist Chinese will be rooting for Joe Biden, that the Nazi regime in Tehran will be rooting for Joe Biden, even Russia, because they know that.
Yeah, totally. Because they know that Trump's going to come in and shut that down.
Trump was tough with them and cut off oil to them through Germany. They're rooting.
Okay, first of all, it's natural gas that was going to Germany from Russia. It's not Germany was not selling oil to Russia. Look, all right. There's got to be a line, right? At a certain point, either it just doesn't matter anymore on certain Fox shows. Even the words that come out, they just have to sound like they denigrate Biden and lift up Trump. And they don't have to be based even in the normal reality that the people even know. Like, it's always, I knew what he meant. I know what he means. It's whatever it is. If Biden's probably, whatever, even if Biden's not doing that, whatever he's doing is probably worse. That's it. Like, this is just, does any of this line up? This Squid Pro Row? By the way, listen to this again.
Because they know that Trump was tough with them and cut off oil to them through Germany.
Just that moment alone. I'm just saying, if you're going to be called the Great One, those kind of weird flubs should be non-existent, much less rare. But I mean, this whole thing has been ass backwards the entire time. But Trump cut off oil to Russia from Germany. Yeah, I had no idea, that Germany was such a big oil producer, or that Russia required that oil to maintain their dominance and hegemony in Eastern Europe.
Rooting for Joe Biden. It's pretty clear that our enemies are rooting for Joe Biden.
Your enemies. Oh, you mean like your enemies, Mark, like women and the Ukrainians and the Taiwanese and that people who like democracy, your enemies, right?
It's pretty clear that the American people are suffering under Joe Biden with his policies. And these policies.
No, they really aren't, especially compared to the rest of the world coming out of a pandemic.
This appeasement, if not worse, with communist China.
Appeasement, if not worse. Okay, first of all, there isn't any appeasement. If anything, that's what Trump was doing by saying Xi Jinping was handling COVID very professionally. What makes you think it's going to be any different when he gets in? Seriously. What's he going to do? Declare war on China? You want to talk about somebody who's just going to come over there and shit talk China, and then on the other end of it, be like working on Trump Tower Beijing.
With Iran, with North Korea, and the others, there has to be an explanation beyond the fact that he's a blithering idiot. All right, Peter.
Okay, first of all, the explanation, and again, that's another projection moment as well. Trump currently, his reputation amongst Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, anybody else around him is that right now, for what it's worth, for whatever they used to like about Donald Trump, currently, he's a blithering idiot. And they know it. And they're in a huge panic about it. See Roseanne and MTG interview? It was way out there. No, but we'll do that one maybe tomorrow. That would be great. Well, I have the jam tomorrow, so it would be Wednesday. But yeah, good Lord. All right, next up. Now, I remember, I think a lot of us remember, if you recall, during like post 9/11, see something, say something, right? That seems pretty normal, right? If you see somebody, acting a bit funky. What was that? There was that movie with, I think it was Jeff Bridges. Was it Blown Away? Where the guy suspects that his neighbor is a terrorist. Like those kind of things. Okay, apparently that concerns Glenn Beck a lot. Biden's DHS secret police, in quotes, lovely, want you to rat out your neighbors? Question mark, exclamation point. Oh my God. Yeah, they probably do. If your neighbor is building a bomb in their garage, or has a manifesto they keep showing you at barbecues that involve the eradication of an entire race or group of people, yeah, probably they want to hear from. I'm just saying, I'd pick up the phone. But let's see what the hell he's talking about.
At this story, and I just didn't recall it at all. And I think this tells you something.
It
that
does.
We have so many things going on in our country right now.
Yeah, there's like movies coming out, and like I'm on tour. I've got 2 tours going at once. I'm doing Nerd Halen and my show, and then I'm trying to do my live stream at the same time. There's so much going on. And here's Glenn with his weird slit marks above his forehead. I don't know what the fuck that is. I still haven't figured it out. And I don't know, is that clown crying makeup? Was he a crying on the inside clown last night? It just looks really creepy. I mean, there's obviously a lot going on in his life, trips to Sonic and back to Sonic tomorrow, and a lot of trips to the bathroom, back to Sonic.
That a story this big could elude us or just talk about it once and then move on.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah, that's probably because you're an eluder, I think.
To be clear, this didn't elude us, right? It was actually in
No, it was illusory, but you guys nailed it. What?
the show prep in the
Early
newsletter.
story.
If you're a subscriber to the newsletter, which
Oh, I see. So you have to. This story is so important that the only people you shared it with were your subscribers. Okay. Hey, stupid. If anything says something is not a crucial emergency, it's hiding it behind a paywall or making people give up their email address so that you'll tell them. That is, ladies and gentlemen, Patreon folks, super chatters, and people who support the show, let me tell you one thing. That is, again, one of the reasons why I don't do 2 things on this show. One is I don't hide any of the show that we're talking about, these political topics, any of this stuff behind a paywall. Yes, the stand-up show is an extra that I give to Patreon people, but that's not politics. That's just my regular, ordinary, human, interpersonal stand-up. That's just for me and anybody in the audience. It's not like I'm holding back a factor, a detail that would be crucial to people's choices in the voting by that. It's different. It's added value. It's not taken away. So I'm not hiding this stuff behind a paywall. And the other thing too is I'll read super chats occasionally, but I don't only read super chats, which a lot of like these channels do, because you have to pay to get them to respond to what you're talking about, so that people who are in the chat room, and we, and I address you guys, you're absolutely welcome. Glenn is that stain on hotel sheets. I think he's more like the stain on the mattress that never goes away. But like, if you really care about these issues and they're that important, why would you hide them? Yes, you can, Robert. Thank you to my address on the website. Um, but yeah, so I appreciate you. I have indeed, Wes, I've read your comments a few times, and it's not because you paid for it, right? That's the point. Because we're here to have a conversation. I'm here to share this stuff with you. I'm here to give you my take on stuff, which I hope is helpful and gives you a different perspective than other people would give you or that you would get on your own. And so I'm trying to add value for this. And the people who support the show through super chats and PayPal or Patreon or Venmo or any of that stuff, they do it knowing that they're not doing it so they can buy status within it, although we love them for that and we appreciate them. We have a little like credits at the end of the show and all that, but it's not so that they get, first dibs at something that would be crucial to making a decision about voting or a particular, political issue that's important, right? And I personally think that's wrong. Thank you, Edward. TYT does it. And it's way up there on my list of why they are shitty people. And so does Glenn Beck. And that's exactly what he's talking about right now. Listen to this little exchange right now. This is Glenn Beck thinks this is a story that has eluded us and that has been hidden from the average person. And Stu is, oh, it didn't elude us. If you're signed up for our little, and by the way, that that newsletter they send you out is an ad campaign for all their, goods and secondary services they sell. It's an ad delivery system, and what I would call a barrel edition, which is you take stories that show up in the news and you add those to this is in our reading list. And so people go like read those stories through your newsletter instead of going to the source that actually made them. In the 1930s, during the Depression especially, there was a thing where kids would take the morning's newspaper when people would read it and then they would throw it away. Kids would find the newspaper and they would tie it back up, put a piece of twine around it, and sell it afterwards. And they called it the barrel edition because they got it out of a trash barrel. So that's what this is. Their newsletter that he's talking about is a barrel edition. And to get a copy of that and get this this incredibly crucial story, which, your life might depend on it, you have to subscribe to their thing and give them your email. Otherwise, you don't get the information. Like, just say it, stupid.
Talk about it once and then move on.
Yeah.
Listen to this.
To be clear, this didn't elude us, right? It was actually in the show prep in the
early
newsletter.
story.
If you're a subscriber to the newsletter, which gives all the show prep that we do every day, you got this on September 21st, 2023. It was the lead story that day.
And you haven't given a crap about it since. But now it's an emergency.
In our prep, and we talked about it, but you're right. These things just come and go because of every day is a new catastrophe.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to remember that they think the ever improving jobs report is a catastrophe. So, context.
Yeah. Listen to this one. The Biden administration since disbanded Homeland Intelligence Expert Group, which reminds me, make sure you listen to the new podcast, The Beck Story, the third.
Oh, my God. Let me guess. It's a pay subscription. I mean, he keeps making my point. Also, I got to say, I don't know what is up with his face. He looks terrible. First of all, his nose is oddly purple. It looks like necrosis or something. It looks like he's either he's got makeup on a bruise. It's not just me, right, chat room? And then I don't know what's going on under his eyes. He's got Joker eyes happening right here. And these lines he has had since he disappeared for a little while. And I don't know if this is just he got a facelift and this is just these got to take time to heal, or he's, I thought for a while, for the record, that I thought he was putting his glasses on the top of his head and he would just leave them there all day and they would leave a mark on his forehead, and then he takes them off right before the show, or he moves them down right before the show, and this is just constantly there. That looks like stitches now to me, and I don't know what the hell is going on. Right? Is this weird? He looks like crap. This looks really bad. Like gacked up, and it's like his eyes are bleeding. This is odd. And he's in the other room. He's not in the studio. It's like he's got an immune issue again or something, and he's separated from the rest of the cast. And by the way, I don't wish illness on anybody, even him. And as a lot of these like shit stirs on the right go, Glenn is one of the most harmless. He's just the conveyor of some of the worst talking points, and he helps lift them up. He's the scaffolding on which the Jan Sixers tried to kill Mike Pence, right? So he serves a purpose, but he's not the incendiary version of it. He just adds aid and comfort to every violent talking point they want. But I gotta say, like, this is bad.
Comes out tomorrow. Is it the third one or fourth one? And it's all about experts and how these experts, it's all part of the progressive plan for the last 100 years. The world will.
Yes, education, you mean. Experts. What in the world are you selling on here? I mean, does anybody believe for a second that Glenn Beck doesn't consider himself an expert on politics or on journalism or media or any of the areas that he's worked in or been in? Like, he'll tell you, I mean, he might laugh it off. If you ask him directly, he'll go, I'm just subdued. But he doesn't believe that.
Making sense to you like nobody's business. Anyway, so that's the Homeland Intelligence Experts Group. They planned an influence operation to persuade mothers and teachers to inform on dissident parents and students suspected of domestic extremism. Now, as we told you after the passing of the Patriot Act.
You mean kids who like draw AR-15s in classroom and end up shooting up the place?
Be careful, because terrorism can be one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist.
Yeah, that's what Reagan said, and you're mocking it. I think it's ridiculous. And by the way, that dismissal is in and of itself an act of just like vacant immorality.
Man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that all the time. If you are standing up and you're standing up peacefully,
then you're not a terrorist.
You can go to jail. You can go to.
No, you can't.
Prison. You can stand up.
No, you can't. I mean, you'll go to jail for trespassing. You'll go, but you're not going to go to jail for a violent crime unless you commit one. You're not going to be considered a terrorist unless you engaged in a terroristic act.
Peacefully, and in fact, kneel down and pray in front.
Yeah. Hold on. Does he say
abortion clinic? Can you?
No. Not in front of one. It's not because they care about which side of the building you're on. When you block the pathway, you block the door, or you go into the clinic itself and you block access to medical care for people. That's when you get arrested. You're not being arrested because you're praying. How about this, Glenn? How about the next time, where is he, in Texas? Next time I'm in Texas, I'll come over and I'll kneel on your chest. How about that? I'll just stay on your chest, just with my one knee right here, this general area, and the other one right in your gut. And if you complain, I'll just go, hey, I'm praying. Why are you trying to stop me from praying, Glenn? This is absurd.
Go to jail now for 10 years.
By the way, I would never do that because I don't need to use violence to get my points across. I'm charming and funny.
But you can burn down an abortion clinic and they don't even look for you.
Yes, they do. Yeah, and by the way, if you're thinking about doing that, don't do it, because that's not true. If you burn down an abortion clinic, they're gonna look for you. How does this even make sense? Like, what do you mean? They only care about the presentational anti-choice violence and not the actual violence? Where is that? All right, listen to that again.
Now for 10 years, but you can burn down an abortion clinic and they don't even look for you.
I don't even know where that comes from. Honestly, I don't know the root of where he would even think, because it's almost like you'd think he would say you can burn down a Target and they won't come and look for you because Black Lives Matter or something like that. You could see him latching onto something like that. But what?
The panel created in September of last year.
Not a panel. This is how it starts. It always starts with a panel. Who's on panel? Obviously, Charles Nelson Riley and Betty White. What kind of panel are we talking about?
Was to provide advice and perspectives on intelligence and national security efforts. I'm quoting.
Okay. Yeah, providing advice. A panel that provides advice. Okay. This is violence. Okay.
They included the Obama era CIA director, John Brennan. Gee, how many times have we seen his name come up? And it's all related to bad, oppressive stuff.
Bad, oppressive stuff.
Also, the ex-director,
I mean, never.
the National Intelligence Agency, James Clapper. Now, these were the guys that during the 2020 election were showing their credentials. Hey, I just want you to know, I'm a bigwig in the intelligence department, and let me tell you, this Hunter Biden laptop, that's dangerous Russian disinformation.
It is. It was.
Okay. Conservative nonprofit, thank God for American First Legal.
American First Legal? You mean America First Legal? Because it kind of stands out to me that often Trump probably should have called it Americans First as opposed to America First, because obviously you could make a class argument for, the kind of like top of the line money makers in the world and the people who are working on the bottom, that when you say America First, to some people, they view it as a sort of a corporatist idea. So Americans First might be, hey, Biden campaign, yet another thing I'll throw you as a nugget. Turn one of their screw ups into a win. He talks about America First all the time because he's talking about businessmen. He's talking about money and himself. I'm an Americans First Democrat. I believe in Americans of all, creeds and religions and races who have, come to this country or were brought to this country and have been here for generations seeking the American dream, or are brand new here, and they are Americans, and they are as committed to the idea of America as anybody, on the other side, and yet they are denigrated as not being, really American. I'm for Americans, even the ones I disagree with. It's America First ideas that the weird part is that they don't even seem to like the Constitution, so it seems like they're talking about the property.
Alleged in November, in a lawsuit in 2023 November.
They alleged in a lawsuit in 2023 November, okay?
That the group was stacked with Democratic partisans.
Okay. Well, is what they're saying wrong, though?
Now listen to this. This is how this thing was stopped. It was stacked with Democratic partisans and violated the Federal Advisory Committee Act because of its lack of balance. The Biden administration's inappropriate influence over it and its lack of public notice and participation.
They didn't put we're trying to make a decision about what qualifies. While Timothy McVeigh is driving to the Oklahoma City building, we want to put up a flyer for 3 days and go, is what he's doing really bad? Just to be fair.
Agreed to disband the group and to provide American First Legal with the internal records as part of an out-of-court settlement in May. I just want you to know, they don't stop these things. They rename them, they break them up, and they do them in other ways.
Or they recognize you can't do it legally or with those issues, so they recreate it and they start from scratch with a better version. They go, oh, okay, yeah, we didn't think there'd be a push it back because what kind of a lunatic wants to push back on us trying to protect the country, but these guys will stop at nothing. So let's reframe it and let's get a broader group in here. Let's bring in all kinds of people they can't even argue with, but that aren't maggots who are hoping the country falls apart.
You can't say you are a lover of our democracy and you're trying to save democracy and put a secret council together that is encouraging.
It's a panel. It's not a council. They give counsel, not the same thing.
People to look at political dissent and report on those people so the government can do something. In the notes from a September 2023 meeting, the Brennan Clapper Group discussed ways for the Department of Homeland Security to increase efforts to collect intelligence on Americans across the country and to get into
I'm going to guess this is from the lawsuit these guys filed.
local communities in a non-threatening way.
What? What is that about? That's what's probably that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they smelled weakness, because we wanted to form a group like this in a non-threatening way.
Members noted, quoting, Americans have an ambivalent feeling of telling on each other, citing the failure of see something, say something. No, we don't. We're not ambivalent about that. We don't want to do that.
That's right. Snitches get stitches. And just because you see your neighbor constructing a bomb or talking about how the world would be better off if women had never gotten the vote, or black people had never been free, or Jews were never here, or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, why bring it up? You know? I'm trying to watch the game.
If I see somebody that is breaking the law and I think they're doing something that looks like it might be terroristic in nature, yeah, I will call the police. But I'm not.
But in general, people don't, or it takes them a long time.
Snooping.
And then it's too late.
Spying on my neighbors.
Yeah, that's not what it was asking them to do. It was trying to encourage people who do know something to say something, not people to go find stuff to look into.
The problem one attendee summarized was, quote, how do people safely report a concern about their neighbors?
Safely. Right there. How do we safely report something around about their neighbors who might be a terrorist, because that person will go, hey, the only person who could see into the window in my garage is Stan. Hence the word safely, you frigging nut.
One solution proposed at the meeting was to reclassify, listen to this. One proposal was to reclassify political dissent as a public health crisis and to encourage Americans to report.
Yeah, I'm guessing they wouldn't say political dissent. I'm sure they reframed it the other way, but the lawsuit was saying that qualifies as political dissent. Therefore, if your neighbor's a sovereign citizen and is buying a lot of fertilizer and doesn't have a farm,
family members or neighbors to the federal government if they displayed any concerning behavior.
and obviously the concerning behavior is a Trump sign in their yard. That's enough. Yeah. And then black helicopters, and then FEMA camps.
Yeah, well, here's some concerning behavior. Trump derangement syndrome. Here's some concerning behavior.
What's that? What is it? What's Trump derangement syndrome? Why would I not despise a guy who hung around with Jeffrey Epstein for 3 decades, flew on his plane dozens of times, brought his family, his own children on there repeatedly, hung out with him, partied with him? Why wouldn't I find that human being disgusting? I think the Trump derangement syndrome would literally be somebody who is willing to look past that. You'd have to be deranged to support Trump.
Putting together the Stasi. Here's some concerning behavior. Allowing illegals and gangs to come into our country, rape and kill our children, and still do nothing about it.
Yeah, by the way, all the migrants that they're saying have killed somebody, one of the reasons why they know a migrant did it is because a migrant was arrested and jailed for it. So if what he's saying is true, why would we even be arresting them? Of course they're being arrested and they're being charged and deported, and or both, right? They serve their term and then they get kicked out afterwards. If we don't trust the country that we're sending them to put them in jail for a long time, we will keep them in jail until they're feeble, and then we'll release them back to their original country. That's part of it.
Who do I call for that? Quote, to get a mother or a teacher to come forward, it needs to be a public health catcher's mitt. So they're saying, a Trump derangement syndrome, they're saying if you disagree, it's because you have mental health problems.
No, they're not. they're saying that specifically when it's mothers and teachers, they will tend to give people more of they're more afraid that they'll be the victims of violence because statistically they are, and they're more sort of giving in terms of saying, oh, they're just messing around. That's not really a thing. They'll go further with that than say, an uncle who's a cop who might go the exact opposite way, might be overly suspicious of everything.
Now, Stu, what was one of the ways that the Stasi and the Nazis could get people at the beginning, before they just said, we don't care, to get people off the streets who disagreed with them? Where did they put some of those people before the concentration camps?
Where did they put
Asylums.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So this has been around for a long time. This is why we don't have large mental institutions in the United States, and why a lot of our homeless live on the street, and people who are never going to have another job or relationship or maintain rent or a mortgage ever, because their brains are effectively fried from either drug use or genetics or a mix of the two or what have you, and who have normally been in an institution where their needs are cared for until the end of their natural life, and where they are not a danger to themselves or others. Those were all shut down by Reagan. And one of the reasons why they didn't want those things, and why Republicans have been against those things for a long time, is they're sort of like, it's aligned with that mark of the beast idea about why they don't want a federal idea. It's sort of Christic in nature. This is also because they think that at some point, liberals are going to create a system where being a Republican is a mental disease. They're going to classify it magically as a mental disease, and then they're going to start rounding people up. That's how we're going to live, and that's how they sell this thing. That's why we don't have institutions. That's why mentally ill people die in the United States on the street every day in droves, because the Glenn Becks of the world are afraid of some bizarre boogeyman, where if we have mental institutions and people can be put in there against their will because they have no will, they have no manageable will, that's a slippery slope, and everybody's, they're just going to use it to round everybody up. Alex Jones sold that. Now Glenn's selling it because he's trying to get their audience.
It's very true.
Asylums. They put them in the crazy house because they were just crazy. Because to go against what is good for the common good is clearly some sort of mental health disorder.
Yeah, but there's a huge, huge difference. Well, I mean, like, why am I even arguing this point? No, there is a point where we need asylums, and then there's a point where they're not. None of this is about putting people in asylums either. It's like, if they have a mental health crisis, that's the nice way of saying they're on their way to becoming a school shooter or going postal. We're giving them the benefit of the doubt in that moment that they have a mental breakdown, and not that they are completely sane and murderous.
If DHS could not convince mothers and teachers.
Also, that's one of the reasons why we talk about mental health crisis in the United States the way we do, is because to get mothers and teachers, specifically as a demographic, and we're talking about suburban women, and we're talking about teachers across the country or whatever, to act on a violent kid that they're afraid, if I tell the cops on this kid who I think he's going to be violent, they're going to treat him like a criminal, and therefore there's a hitch in their get along. It slows their roll on it. But if I say he's having a mental health crisis and there's a way to kind of intervene and we might be able to steer him away from this, then I'd be more willing to tell somebody about it, rather than just pretend it's not happening until it's too late.
Become informants. One member of the group suggested the feds, listen to this, should turn to corporate America as a resource of intelligence on their employees. May I ask, what more information does our government need on us as individuals?
I'll tell you what. If an employee, say at a bank, work with me for a second, everybody. Let me tell you exactly where this comes from. Right. Oops. Hold on. And mass shooter. Okay. There was a. Yeah, here we go. Remember this guy? I'll just show you this bit. the 2023 Louisville bank mass shooting. Remember that guy? April 10th, 2023, at the Old National Bank in Louisville, Kentucky, my original home state, where much of my family lives. 5 people were killed, 8 others injured, including 2 responding police officers. The shooter, 25-year-old former employee Connor James Sturgeon, was fatally shot by police. The shooting happened on the first floor of the Old National Bank. He walked in there with an AR-15 style rifle, and the people were calling in. There's this guy here. They all know him because he worked there. 5 people were killed in the shooting. All the victims were employed at the Old National Bank. Josh Barrick, 40, Deanna Eckert, who died in the hospital on the same day, Tommy Elliott, Juliana Farmer, and Jim Tutt. Elliott was a personal friend and mentor of Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. This is Tommy Elliott. The chief medical officer of the University of Louisville Hospital said they had received 9 patients, including 2 police officers that were injured in the shooting. Okay, this guy. LMPD identified the perpetrator, 25-year-old Connor James Sturgeon, who was raised in Indiana. He attended this high school, blah, blah, blah. He's supposed to confirmed that he suffered several concussions while he was in school. Before moving back to Louisville, where he was employed at the Old National Bank beginning in June 2021, 2 years prior. According to LinkedIn page, he interned at the bank over previous summers and worked full-time at the bank for nearly 2 years. Bank manager recalled him as being low-key and relaxed, and family members noted that he had depression. Several of his friends and members of his family expressed surprise over him being the perpetrator. Now, this guy was an employee, and they were like, hey, just because this guy is one of your toughest employees, if you're thinking about firing somebody that has a history of violence that we're aware of, and you're about to lay them off, and this could be a trigger, somebody paying attention to them, a shrink, contact through family members, law enforcement, maybe a red flag law in some instances where you have somebody with a history of violence or a potential for the history, for a mass shooting, and they're going to get fired. They're going to lose their job. Layoffs are coming. Like, hey, we're laying off a bunch of these people. Included them are 3 people who have made threats at the office before when they were laid off, and we hired them back, and those kind of things. That is what they were asking for. And knowing about those things ahead of time would have saved lives. And the weird part is, think about the opposite of this. The U.S. government wants this information from corporations about, yeah, Michael, that happens all the time. People get scared of an employee and then they bring them back. Because they're like, that guy's, we need the workers, and he knows what he's doing, but I'm afraid he's going to snap. It happens all the time. They get temporarily furloughed is what happens, and then they bring him back. And even though they're like, because we can't even fire this guy. If we fire him all the way, he's gonna, they're afraid of these people. These are people we are aware of. People are aware of. Okay, think of it this way, in reverse. Not that the government wants corporate America to tell them, inform on their employees, but look at the other side. What if a company knew for a fact that one of their employees had made violent threats in the office, had done all this stuff that was leading up to them firing this person, and they were taking security precautions. They were adding security guards to the office because if they fire this guy, and they know they're going to, he might come back and do something violent, so they're going to pay attention to him. Okay, specifically, and they don't tell anybody else. And that person doesn't go into their old office and shoot the place up when they're mad. They go into the mall. And this company, because one of the employees that had, quit early or whatever, went to work in the food court. And so this like lunatic homosexual shows up and shoots up the mall because they blame this former employee for why they got laid off. And the company knew it, and didn't pass it along to the authorities. They saw something, they didn't say anything. Are they responsible for some of the deaths that occurred in that food court? Going postal isn't a label you can use anymore. Right, I agree. You know what I'm talking about, though. They could have said something, they didn't do it. That's what we're talking about here. That's what they were discussing. And that's why it was a panel of experts trying to figure out how to make this work. They didn't order anything. They didn't create a Stasi. They're not creating asylums where they're going to throw Trump supporters in it at all. What they're doing is that there is a real problem with dangerous employees who have threatened other people in their workplace, and the company knows they're going to get fired, and they might want to call the police. And they used to do this back in the day. Maybe they used to call the sheriff and go, "Hey, yeah, we got to let him go, and he's been drinking in the office and threatening everybody. So you should know he's gonna be at the bar tonight, and he's gonna be pissed off, probably looking to hurt somebody." Small towns, you could do that, but in big cities and big corporations, you can't do it. That's what they were asking for specifically. So, second, no. But this this is what he has to turn this into, and this is, by the way, this is probably more about, and this is my personal opinion of this situation. These talking points, what he's talking about here, and his use of the word Stasi and all this stuff, and fear of experts, and this extra podcast they're doing, is that as InfoWars dies, these are the sharks in the water that are eating the chum. They are eating the chunks left over from the InfoWars audience and digesting it to make themselves bigger. That's what this is. That's what that podcast that he's talking about is aimed at. It is a manipulation. Anyways, I gotta go, guys. I appreciate you. Thanks for sticking around. I'm glad the internet worked. I'll work on the production quality over the next couple of days, and then I'm back in Vegas on Thursday, and I will be doing the debate, but I'm gonna do it after. So we're all gonna watch the debate. I'll live tweet the debate as it goes. I don't want to interrupt it and stuff, but I will cover it afterwards, and it might be a late night, but I will go through it piece by piece, because I feel like that'll be entertaining and fun and informative and all that stuff. And we'll watch it a second time and break it down if that's okay with you. So, because I know there'll be tons of coverage of it and all that kind of stuff, and I just want to kind of like put my thumbprint on there. Am I doing the sentencing on the 11th? Yes, for certain. Although we won't get to see any of it. I don't think. Right? There's no cameras in the court. I wonder if there's cameras for the sentencing. I don't think it'll change. That would be fascinating. Anyways, much love to you guys. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else, and I'll see you tomorrow.